Howdy! Now the adventure begins. We are going to start with Chapter 1 in the Kosseff book. I've decided to make shorter videos, so I'm trying a bit of an experiment, and I'd like your feedback. I've taken Chapter 1 into 4 videos. Now last week I kind of gave you an idea of how you should approach Chapter 1, and so I'm going to keep doing that now. But this is basically the learning objectives. We want to learn a lot about the FTC Act Section 5 and how it's used in data breaches. We want to understand what we're beginning to see out of the courts about the commonality. You're going to see the same words come over and over, how they are holding companies liable. Now remember, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is an agency of the federal government, the executive branch. It reports to Congress. However, it is clearly under the executive branch, as is all federal agencies. There are 2 important cases in this chapter. Basically, as I told you the first day of class, I'm not training you to be engineers. I'm training you to be legal savvy cyber workers. So very few times, if you were in law school, you got to know case names and, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're not in law school. But I want you to do is I want you to be able to understand Wyndham and the LabMD cases, because these are 2 very important cases in how the FTC handles data breaches. And then I just want you to be able to categorize the recommendations on the FTC, because basically what I'm teaching you to do this semester is to build in your mind the knowledge and skills for a legal analysis framework. I can't train you what laws are coming down the pike next week. Well, not laws so much since the government's in shutdown, but let's say court decisions, or what laws come in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. But what I can educate you on is how to approach the analysis. So that's what these learning objectives are about, being able to describe the commonalities and then begin to categorize the recommendations. If you haven't read Chapter 1 yet, I want you to read pages 1 through 15 thoroughly. Again, don't worry about the specific name, starting with this section. Rather, look at the headers. Failure to secure highly sensitive information. Use industry standard encryption. Concentrate on the key lessons. At one point, I started building a table classifying and concluding this, and maybe if I get some time, I'll do that. Or maybe you can do it as part of your analysis. Again, don't worry about the specific names other than Wyndham and LabMD and why they are significant. I want you to look for the common themes, the patterns, the signatures. You can skim the rest of the chapter. I don't care about state data breach laws. They're in constant evolution. Quite frankly, if you get a job out of A&M, many of you will go work for the federal government or companies that are under federal laws. What you need to know about the state data breach laws, you'll be trained on. There's 50 states. Come on, let's focus on what's important. You can skip the page 42 at the end of the chapter. And then, what is public policy, as in offends public policy? So if you Google it, the Texas courts are quoting a law from 2001, a court case from 2001, where a valid contract prescribes particular remedies or imposes particular obligations. Equity generally must yield unless the court contracts positive law or offends public policy. The court has long recognized a strong public policy in favor of preserving the freedom of contract. So sometimes we like offends public policy, sometimes we don't. What the court's saying here is, unless it's a very onerous situation, we like the freedom of contract. So if the complainant has shown individual unfairness or is somehow hindering the notions at the expense of public policy, reasonable and fairness, even though the contract may be valid, the court may say, nope, we're going to invalidate this because it offends public policy. However, offends public policy can go both ways. Sometimes we agree with it and sometimes we don't. But understand that that's a legitimate concern that the court has the ability and the power to adjudicate. So be clear on this. It can be a valid contract. There can be different things that happen. But in the court's opinion, if it offends public policy. It is not good for our economy, for our state, for our nation, for the well-being of its people, whatever. It can still be invalidated. That is the end of video 1. We're going to be moving to video 2. Stay with me, please.